So we've spent the past 8 months converting this 2021 plate Fiat Ducato X delivery panel van into our dream home on wheels. And let me tell you, I think it might be the most challenging 8 months when it comes to DIY. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Lana and this is Stalky Adventures, and I run this channel with my fiance Tom. We set it up 4 years ago, sharing adventures and some questionable DIY from our VW T4 called Stalky. And our most recent venture is this thing here, a self-converted Fiat Ducato. And this video, we are going to show you the process from the start to the finish, 8 months. We have very minimal DIY experience. We converted the T4 a couple of times, but really it is more of a day van. This here is a proper campervan conversion, and it is basically a small apartment on wheels. We have a full off-grid electrical system, water and heating. I thought this van was going to take us about 3 months. We bought it last September and our goal was to have it finished by December. Oh my gosh. 8 months later, we finally completed it. And to be honest, there's still a few little things here and there, but overall it is perfectly livable now. Just want to clarify that we are not professional van builders, electricians, carpenters, window fitters. Absolutely have no background in any of it. We are complete amateurs, which makes us even more proud of this build. Let me take you back to last September and show you what the past 8 months have looked like to get to this very point right here. So this was the van. About 2 days after picking it up, we were so excited. It was literally just an empty, smelly, dirty panel van. I believe it was an ex-delivery van beforehand, and we didn't waste any time messing about. We got straight in there and started gutting the whole thing out. The bulkhead was the first thing we tackled, and it proved to be a sign of how much work lay ahead. Then it was straight onto the wooden panels that were on the walls, so we've removed all of that within about a day, and we really felt like we were on a roll. It was just a case of going around with the drill and screwing it and ripping it off, and it was so satisfying. And the metal looked pretty clean underneath as well, which was promising. No rust, not like the other one. So once we'd removed all the wooden panels from the doors and the walls, it was time to remove the floor, which revealed a lot of filth, a lot of muck, and a lot of bad smells. We knew it was a type of delivery van before, but I'm not sure what they transported, but it really did smell, so it just meant giving it a real good deep clean. I must have spent a good day or so in there giving it a thorough clean, sweeping it down, mopping it up, sweeping again, and just disinfecting everything, the walls, the floors, and the grooves. Once that was done, it meant we had a nice clean base to work from, and we went straight in the deep end. This is one of the scariest parts of your van build, cutting out the windows. So we've never cut out windows before in a van. This was our first time, and it was pretty terrifying. I'm going to hand you over to Tom, who is going to talk you through the process from his perspective.
Okay, so as mentioned, this was the first time we'd done anything like this, and it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it turned out to be one of the easier jobs because the inside, as you can kind of see, of the panels, they are the size that you would need to use as a template for these particular windows. Later on, you'll see a smaller window on the side, which has to have a custom cut put in, and that was a lot harder. But as you can see, we drilled out the pilot holes, put a bit of masking tape down to avoid scratches, and then we got the jigsaw out. You put your masking tape on there just to make sure it doesn't fall when it's cut fully, and then eventually when you make the final cut you can pop it off like that. Repeat the process on both sides, and like I said, what you're seeing there is me just following the template on the inside, which is pretty much guaranteed to give you the same size for both your windows. So same process here, masking tape it all up, cut it all out, and when you get around to the other end, it pops out. So next, it's a case of filing down the edges. Takes a little while, but it is worth it. Get rid of any of the bits that you don't need there, and that's some rust-proof paint. These come with the windows, followed by these sort of edging, whatever you call it. And now this is where things started to get a little bit scary. So we obviously decided to start doing this in the afternoon as it was getting dark. And what you're seeing there is I'm putting the glue on really, really badly. I'm covering as much as I can, which I thought would work, but it's not one solid bead. There's a video about this where I kind of go into it in more detail, because as you're about to see, this didn't work very well. We had to do a lot of fixes on it. But yeah, if you want to see that, that's on another video from about 6 months ago now. Anyway, onto the side window here, same process. Pull off the support bars, follow that line there that you can see, and then it's just a case of copying what you did before. This is Lan pretending that she's done all these holes here. She's done about 4 to her credit. And then, as I said, it's the same process. This is the 3 seconds worth of jigsaw work that Lan did. This was one of her better achievements in this build. And miraculously there, she seems to have cut the entire thing out herself. I don't know how she did it, but we lost the footage evidently. And then we're on to the next window. This is the side window, I believe, which became what we call the lounge window. Again, same process. I'm using a step down drill bit there, if anybody's interested. But you could use anything that will make a hole big enough to get your jigsaw blade through. And the reason for so many holes, obviously, in case you hadn't figured it out, is because it's dot to dot. You join them all up, and that's what you're going to be cutting out from the outside. Now on to mounting the side windows. Again, as you can see, we've already mounted the one on the sliding door. And it's important to note as well that it hadn't rained yet. So as far as we were aware, we'd done a brilliant job, and these were completely watertight, amazingly well fit windows, and we thought that the whole process would be as easy as we thought this was. The Max fan was up next, and it was arguably easier, I think. Fairly simple. You clean the roof down, and because we had this template, it fits into the ribs of the roof perfectly. And because it can only really go in one of them in the middle, you're guaranteed to find your middle spot. Same process, drill it out, cut it out, and then adhesing your fan to the place that you want it. Now, I'd recommend mastic tape for this one. We didn't use it for the Max fan. We used that square thing I showed you a minute ago. I'd go with mastic tape because we used it on the back, and it was actually really, really good and easy. It's essentially kind of like chewing gum mixed with glue. Comes in strips, and it's really, really good. But on this one, as you can see, I just used a ton of Sikaflex, which I'm pretty sure I turned out to be allergic to. We used, I honestly, if I'm not joking if I say we probably used about 40 plus bottles of Sikaflex for the entire build in the end. As you can see, we went through it, and I wasn't shy. Anyway, layered it all up and screwed it all down, and then we put the Max fan on top of that, which I don't think we've got any footage of. And this is us testing it the next day using just a 12-volt battery and attaching it to that. Then it was time for the skylight, same sort of thing, quite straightforward. Cut out the template just from some old cardboard, stick that to the roof, dead in the middle, draw around it, and then cut that out just like before. Then I tested it all fits, which it did, and that's the mastic tape. That's creating a watertight boundary there when everything's pushed down and screwed in place. And once that's all done, it looks like that, and then cover that in Sikaflex. This was probably one of the more stressful jobs. I'm about to do the side window, and as I said, there isn't really a built-in template for this, so you make your own. As you can see, I used a piece of cardboard, took my time to make sure it was where we needed it, and then got to work. And because I hadn't learned anything from the previous windows, I decided to start doing this in the afternoon, thinking I'd get it done quickly, and I was very, very wrong. Now, same process, cutting it out, and really just hoping for the best with this one. Also, what you didn't see there is that my jigsaw broke at some point, so I had to run off and buy a new one, acutely aware of the time. this is me now starting to panic that I've done it wrong, and I decided to stop filming because I really did have to get it done before it got too dark.
Well, we were definitely glad to see the back of the window saga. It was time to head down to Wired Campers down in South Devon and pick up the goodies, aka the sound deadening and insulation. Wired Campers is definitely a van lifer's dream. They sell everything from electrical systems, solar panels, toilets, insulation, you name it. If you're doing a van build, then I highly recommend you check them out. They were a huge part of our van build, super helpful, super friendly, just everything you want for things to run smoothly. Honestly, it felt like Christmas Day, so once the van was packed, we headed home and Tom had a little break. It was my turn to take over for a bit, so it was time to do the sound deadening. So this was Dodo Mat. The sound deadening basically reduces the vibrations and the resonance in the metal panels in the van. So it really helps stop that tin can noise you tend to get and any road noise when I was driving. And we put it everywhere you possibly can, really, such as the wheel arches, the walls, the doors, the floor, and then just went over each part with a roller to remove any air pockets. So before installing it to the floor, I did go over any rust patches, sanded them down, and went over them with rust-proof paint just to reduce and prevent any rust coming through in the future. And then comes the insulation. So this black foam is a lightweight waterproof layer that adds a thermal break between the metal and the interior. It helps reduce heat loss in the winter and helps keep it warm in the summer. And again, this also softens road noise and vibrations. It also doesn't absorb water, so it really helps protect the build by stopping condensation transferring straight through to the lining. I then sealed it all with vapor tape, locking it all in, which prevents moisture getting into the insulation and protected the van from condensation over time. This still has one more layer of insulation to go, but we couldn't believe how warm and cozy it already felt in there. And here was our first trip to B&Q to pick up the supplies, and I was very enthusiastic, but I can tell you we have been in B&Q pretty much every day or every other day for the past 8 months. We are pretty much on first name terms with the staff. It's kind of ridiculous. And then it was on to the subfloor, which I believe is a 12mm plywood, and we had to just cut out a few corners so it would fit around the wheel arches. So here I'm just applying the glue. I got through about 2 or 3 tubes of this just to make sure it was thorough and the ply would stick down. We cut the ply actually into 3 different parts. It was just the most efficient and best way to do it. And it was a success. All went well, no issues here. We cut it to the size correctly and it fit in between the wheel arches. So, you know, we felt like we're really getting somewhere here. And then it was on to the final part of the insulation, the Eco Fleece from Dodo Mat. So this basically traps air inside the van's cavities, and trapped air is what slows heat loss and heat gain. So in the winter, it helps keep the warmth in, and summer helps slow heat get in, and it doesn't generate heat or block cold completely, it just slows the transfer. It also helps with condensation management, so it fills up empty air spaces where I guess warm, moist air would otherwise hit the cold metal surfaces and form like water and droplets. So it's definitely a non-negotiable, and again, this is from Wired Campers. They supply all the insulation that you need for your camper van build. And now I think it's probably a good idea for me to hand you back over to Tom.
Okay, so at this point I started putting battening in to hold just basic sort of panels. This was going to be under the bed anyway, so it didn't really matter too much what it looked like. This is going to be behind the sofa, so I just needed something that can just act as a face, really, essentially, just to cover all the insulation. That wasn't too bad. Still fairly optimistic at this point. Quite liked how it looked back then. This is our incredible bed. This is from North Shore Classics, bespoke made. For us, we wanted it slightly lower than most, and they were able to do that really, really easily. Very easy to put together, as you can see. And this is me putting in the holes for the rivets. This is the first time I did this with that rivet gun there. Very easy to do. Just a bit of welly to squeeze it in, but it's not too bad. This is the kit that comes with the bed. And more riveting there, really. That's just a close-up example for anyone that hasn't done it before. That's what it looks like. It gives you a place to put screws in, obviously, so you can tell. Bolts. And there you have it. Nice finished, really, really strong, incredibly strong, and a really, really nice height and size for what we needed. Next, it was some 18mm ply and putting in the air holes here, and then we screwed that onto the frame. Then it was onto the furniture. So I started by making a basic sort of sofa, which I planned to sort of build everything else off of. We didn't have a solid plan, we just had a sort of rough idea what we wanted to go where. So I knew that if I built this, then we could figure out where everything else would fit ultimately. Then we were back inside to the electrics, and this is where I had to sort of throw in the towel. I'm not gonna lie, this was quite daunting. I've done the electrics in Storky, the smaller van, but that's just a 12-volt system. Whereas this also had 240-volt, and I don't have any qualifications, so I just wasn't prepared to risk it, so we hired Mike. This is the enormous Fogstar battery that we got. It was, I could barely get out of the box to begin with. It's 50 kilograms, and it's certainly enough for what we need it for. We eventually got it fitted, got it held in place, and Mike got to work. He is an absolute genius when it comes to this sort of stuff. He's got quite a background in it. So we went and made ourselves useful by getting some more building materials. This was going to be the cladding. As you can see, we've added some more bits there. That will turn out to be a wardrobe later on. And we started to put up the walls once we had done this. So with all of the walls on, I started to build a bit more. This is where I started to put some of the cladding on. As you can see, the wardrobe is partially built there, and the roof's going in. We got the wiring looms in there for the lights. You can see them hanging down there at the foreground. There's a beautiful land again, contributing in a way. And then we finished off the roof. Everything went in quite nicely. And then it was just finishing off other bits. That's the over cab unit that I built. That is now used for shoes. It's really useful. And there it is. Then it was onto the kitchen. At this point, the days were sort of starting to blur into each other, and it was getting a little bit tiring, but we could see the end, so we just pushed on. Then it was a case of just finishing all the bits I'd been putting off, tightening everything up, learning how to do hinges and things like plumbing, getting all the taps and everything working. And at this point I was finishing probably about midnight every night, but it was worth it.
It was absolutely so worth it to get to this point and sit back now and look at this DIY campervan build that we've built with our own two hands. Is an incredible feeling. It's been a long time coming and a bit of a slog, and I'd be lying if I said there weren't moments we felt like giving up on it and handing it over to a professional. Towards the later part of the build, we did actually stop filming everything because it did start to get a bit tedious, and I feel like it wouldn't be any use to you guys. We're not a tutorial or DIY page. We are just a regular couple trying things a little bit out of the ordinary, and I just hope this video can inspire somebody to just get out there and do your thing despite what other people think. If you have a van or you're thinking about buying a van to convert, then I promise if we can do it, so can you. You just got to trust the process, and I really hope this video's helped give you some ideas or inspiration and giving you guys some insights of what it really looks like to build a van. So there we go, guys. That is what the past 8 months have looked like converting this panel van into our dream home on wheels. It has been challenging, to say the least. I definitely feel like we've learned a lot. Would we do it again? Probably not anytime soon, but if you are thinking about buying and converting a van, if it's been playing on your mind, as it was for myself for many years, all I can say is just go for it. Whether it's a T4, whether it's like one of these kind of bigger panel vans, I can tell you it's not going to be easy, but I can tell you it is so worth it. I think the key is just don't put any pressure on yourself if it takes you 6 months, if it takes you 2 to 3 years. So before I sign off, I think I will grab Tom to give a few words, because let's be honest, he, you know, made the magic happen. So let's get him on camera.
Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions with, regarding price, anything like that, how I kind of cobble together certain bits and leave it in the comments, I'll be happy to give you any advice I can muster. But yeah, I suppose the one thing I would say is don't start this kind of thing unless you're prepared to extend the finish date. Maybe you have a little bit of experience with it. It is worth it in the end, but at least for me, if you're like me, when you're doing it, it can be really, really, really not fun. So yeah, definitely go for it if you want to, but be prepared for a very stressful time. I feel like at the start, when we were like stripping everything out and the wood and bulkhead and everything, we're like, oh, this is easy, like stripped it out and then doing the insulation, we're on a roll. I think it just got like, I realized when it was going to go bad was because that with the other van with Storky, that is which I did last year, that is 2 beds with some cladding and really basic 12-volt electrical system. That was all right. That was kind of like, you can do that without any experience. When I realized this was going to be a problem is when every single window leaked when we installed them, and then we had to add about a week into fixing that. And then I realized that I wasn't going to have a lot of fun. This thing was nearly impossible for me to make, but kind of got there in the end. And what you can't see as well, which is something that I think is kind of important, is there's lots of stuff, like we call them, what do you call them? Quirks. That you can't see that look good on camera, but little gaps everywhere and all that kind of thing. So unless you are meticulous and professional, you're going to get a lot of that sort of things, small little gaps that you'll probably never ever see on this channel. Doors slightly higher than others, and that like thing sticking out a bit. But you can just lie to yourself like we have and say it's giving it character. As I say, if you want any more details, let me know in the comments. Half the time it will be me responding to the comments anyway, so I'll keep an eye out for anything directed at me. Anyway, I'm going to go and get myself a well-deserved beer. After all of this, I'll leave you to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up here. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and watching how it's all come together over the past 8 months. We're so glad it's complete, and we are just absolutely over the moon with how it's turned out, despite any quirks, despite the challenges and the blood, sweat and literal tears. It's definitely been worth it, and we are very much looking forward to our adventures this summer, wherever summer is. Summer seems to have disappeared this week. And if summer doesn't return, you know what we're going to do. We're going to go across the channel and chase the sun. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.